What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality Podcast. I am your host. I am Caitlin Kenna Smith, and today I have Dara Flores back on for round two, but this time we're talking about a topic that I consider Dara an expert on, and that's sleep. You know, I've been in the industry training and coaching clients from all different walks of life for 12 years, and without fail, the absolute biggest thing people miss out on is sleep. And sleep can literally make or break your results. And I talk about this a lot. Sleep impacts everything: your habits, your behaviors, your willpower, discipline, cravings, energy, inflammation, stress, hormones, everything. And let's be honest, you're just not you when you're sleepy. And so many people put sleep on the back burner just because they think that they might get good sleep, when in all reality, they're just not getting the most optimal sleep, and they're getting enough to function, so they don't really know what they're missing. And, you know, in today's society, it's all about grind, so people think sleep is for the weak, when in all reality, it is not. So today, Dara and I are going to break down why sleep is so important for your health and for your results, what happens when we sleep that makes it so important. And of course, we don't just give out information on this podcast, we provide application. So Dara's going to give her top 5 tips on how to improve your sleep quality so you can make the most of each day. And since we are on the topic of sleep, I want to take a moment to share with you guys what has helped me and what has helped a lot of my clients with sleep, and that's magnesium. So magnesium is an essential mineral and electrolyte that helps promote muscle and mind relaxation. So a lot of people struggle with sleep because they can't get their body to shut down, or they can't get their mind to shut down, and magnesium can help combat this. Now, it sounds great, right? But the issue is that it's estimated that nearly 70% of the population in America is deficient in magnesium, an essential mineral. And when you have a nutrient deficiency, it's going to impact your quality of life as well as your ability to earn results. Now, you can find magnesium in foods like fish, leafy greens, nuts and seeds. But the problem is that most of us just don't eat enough of those things consistently. Plus, with all of the stress that we continue to put on our bodies throughout the day, we generally need more, and the food that we eat just isn't as nutrient dense as it used to be. So the magnesium that I've grown to love is First Form's powdered magnesium, and that's for a couple different reasons. One, it tastes amazing, which is important because if something tastes like shit, you're not going to be consistent with it, so it won't help you. They actually have this chocolate sea salt flavor that I like to make into a hot cocoa before bed. Is damn good. Or, you know, you can do a fruity flavor. It's completely up to you. I'm just a chocolate slut. It also has 6 different types of magnesium in that one powder. And the last reason, it's super cost effective. It's $39 for 90 servings. So I'll put the link down below in the show notes for you to check it out. But now, sit back, relax, and let's talk all about sleep. What's up, guys? So we have Dara Flores back on the podcast today. Dara, how are we doing today?
Doing great. I'm glad to be back. I mean, it's the second time I'm here to join you on your podcast.
Yeah, I know. I feel like a couple people have been coming back for round 2. And this time we're not going to be talking about, well, we are going to be talking about you a little bit, right? But we're going to be talking about a specific topic. And I want to give a little bit of context on why we're talking about this. Now, today we're going to talk about sleep. And if you clicked on the podcast, then you probably already know that by the title. But why is Dara here to talk about sleep? Because when I coached Dara, I was always unbelievably impressed with her ability to actually prioritize sleep. And she had this shit down. I'll be honest. I know all of the good things with sleep. I teach my clients all of the good things. However, I have the worst insomnia. I suck at sleep. So Dara is going to be here to teach you guys why we need sleep, why it's important, why should we even care. And we're going to give 5 tips, or she's going to give 5 tips on how to maximize your quality of sleep. So Dara, let's start talking a little bit about sleep. So number 1, how did you kind of get into prioritizing sleep? Because I know that a lot of people just don't.
Yeah. So when I was going through my journey with you, as you spoke about, before I started, I read a book And I talked about this last time. Sean Stevenson just comes out with great books that just inspire me to do shit.
And so easy to read too.
Yeah. So his first book that he ever wrote was called Sleep Smarter. And it has 21 great practical ways to implement, apply right away. Something you don't have to like go buy something for. It's just implement, run the play, see what works for you. And so I read the book before you and I got started. And when I started seeing what I wanted from my journey, I was like, you know what, I want to really invest in my time, energy into putting this third pillar into my routine. So first being exercise, nutrition, and then sleep. A lot of people sleep on sleep when we need to not, because it literally moves the needle for most, all of us, I would say. But we skip it because it's you lay down on a pillow and close your eyes, and that sounds boring.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel like with that, a lot of people put sleep on the back burner because they're like, well, I have my job, I have my family, and then I also have like this nutrition thing and this fitness thing. So like if I'm good with my food and I'm good with my workouts, then like I can sacrifice sleep. And I think that's why so many people don't focus on it. But there's a reason why evolutionarily we need sleep. And we haven't like evolved out of having to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a natural process, that we need to live. Like without it, we won't live. So we have to think of it more as uh, like be excited for it. Like it's something part of what I get to do. And a lot of people do put on the back burner because they're like, okay, I have all these things to do. Where can I kind of like cut the corner on something? It's usually sleep, right? It's usually the sleep that gets them, especially when we were younger. You were out all night doing stupid shit. And, we were like, fuck it, I want to 24/7, baby, let's go. So
yeah, right. I
we
want to
leave
waste
it.
my life by sleeping. Screw that.
Yeah. And a lot of times, in the years I, was younger, there's a big, things of like, oh, we'll sleep when I'm dead. I don't need sleep. You always got to be working. Like there's this tone that was, 10 years ago. I think that was really big to just be like someone that just didn't sleep and work hard, don't sleep. But we usually, most times we miss the recovery. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with that being said, we have like you said, adding that other pillar because we have fitness and movement, we have nutrition and then sleep. And most people just like throw sleep away or don't think of it as a pillar. They think of it just kind of as like a little decoration that they throw on the cake, right? When in all reality, recovery drives results. And I talk about this all the time. And one of the biggest things sleep is, it's like Eric says this a lot. He says sleep is the best performance enhancing supplement. That's 100% free because everybody wants like the next supplement. Oh, how can I enhance my results? And the best way for you to enhance your results is to literally sleep. And everybody's so focused on like those biohacking tools like red light therapy and sauna and cold plunge, which are all great. But if you sleep like shit, those things are not going to be band-aids. Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. This like it's like building the foundation of your house. Like we got to get the bricks laid first before we can start adding, framework and all the details. So, and I think it's just easy to skip because it's boring and it doesn't have like you don't know what you're doing. You're literally unconscious and then you wake up either good or bad. Like sometimes you feel shitty. And so even I would even put a context of like quality sleep, like not just sleep, but like we have to focus on how do we get quality of sleep. How do we sleep so well that when we wake up, we're ready to tackle all the tasks that we want for ourselves? Like, what is it we want to do in life? And are we equipped by the quality of our sleep to even do those tasks mentally, physically, kind of, and that's where it really kind of makes the difference of how you perform.
Yeah, that's something I say to my clients all the time. It's like, while sleep quantity is important, sleep quality is even more so important because you can be laying in bed for 8 hours and get sleep. But if those 8 hours of sleep are terrible quality, then you're going to wake up and you're not going to feel ready to attack your day. And sleep impacts everything from your habits, behaviors, your cravings, your ability to have more willpower to stick with your diet, right? Or to actually
Hmm.
get to the gym and have a good workout and not be exhausted.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just don't realize the impact that it really does have. But let's get into kind of why is sleep so important, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You wanna want me to lead? You want me to
Yeah,
go?
go for it. I was asking you.
Okay. Well, first I want to start with like a thought of sleep, and how I like to talk to clients about it, or just
Mhm.
anybody that wants to hear me speak, is like let's reframe it. Like let's reframe the idea of sleep of more or less, like let's be excited, like it's a treat, like we get to lay
Yeah.
down and restore and rejuvenate our body so we can crush the next day. And that should be exciting. It shouldn't just be this like, little agony thing that we're just like, oh, I have to sleep now. It's like, let's get excited for it. Let's set ourselves up for success when it comes to sleep. Reframing sleep is something that I think is a great tool to use, just to kind of put it on the priority list.
I love that
Um,
actually because I feel like in life perspective matters, right? I do the
yeah,
same thing with like, hey, tracking macros, so many people have like that negative outlook of it because they're like, oh, tracking macros is hard. I don't want to weigh my food. And then I'm like, why not? This is literally the roadmap to your results. Why wouldn't you want that? And then they get excited about it and it's less difficult. And
yeah.
perspective really does matter in all areas of life, especially with sleep. Because if you can get excited about it, hey, I know if like as an adult, I get way more excited about sleep than I did when I was like a kid and I wouldn't want to take a nap.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I did a lot of sleeping as a kid. It's because we're growing as kids also.
Yeah.
We don't realize how much more we need sleep in those settings. And then as adults, we think we gotta just burn it at both ends and not, never recover. So be excited like a kid would be jumping into bed with your, get your room set up and jump in bed and like get a good night's sleep. It's always exciting for me.
Yeah. So reframing
um,
thoughts, I love that. And then the value of the high quality sleep, because I know
yeah.
that's something
So
you talk about a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, just making sure we think about it as like it's an anabolic state, right? It's rebuilding. Like we think of like going to the gym as like where we're building these muscles and we're doing all these things, or we're learning things. Maybe we're chasing like a cert or like some type of degree, and we're learning all these processes and everything we want to do, and we're going hard in the gym, going hard in our studies, but really where the work comes into where it sticks and grows and rejuvenates our bodies during the sleep cycles. So like that anabolic state of sleep is important to know, because we think we're just sleeping, but really it's like files are being put together, like our memory, short-term memory is getting created, like waste is being removed, like all the processes is exciting. Like you can totally nerd out about sleep and be excited about it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, yeah, I get to go sleep and build muscles. Yes, let's go.
Yeah, no, and that's something that a lot of people look is like, so the anabolic state is that state where I like to think like you're rebuilding muscle, you're repairing tissue, so you're growing strength, you're growing muscle, you're growing results. Whereas the catabolic state is when you're breaking muscle tissue down. So when you work out, you go into that catabolic state, you start breaking muscle tissue down, you give your body what it needs, proteins and carbs after a workout, you get back into the anabolic state. However, a lot of people overlook the fact that based on the hormones that we produce during those sleep cycles, we actually go into an anabolic state when we're getting that high quality sleep. So if you're not getting quality sleep, you're limiting your ability to grow and repair muscle tissue. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, people want to see results. So we got to
Yeah.
make sure we're taking care of all the little processes that allowing our body to be optimal, right? Just like
Yeah.
you do the work, you want the result. Like, let's make sure we're being optimal about recovery with your nutrition, about sleep, about, managing our stress, all the things. So it plays a part, big part. And then the next thing I want to talk about is just like, it just kind of fortifies our immune system, balances our hormones, and boosts our metabolism. So, like, there's a lot of things happening that if we skip that, we're setting ourselves up to basically uh, get sicker. Like
Yeah.
not be able to lose weight. Get the cold quicker. Not be able to let our body to work optimally without we're missing that step. So.
Yeah, and I think that goes into it's kind of like the impact that stress has on our body, right? So when we're excessively stressed, then our immune system isn't going to function as optimally as it could. Our hormones aren't going to function as optimally as they could. We're going to have like more cortisol, which is breaking down muscle tissue and increasing the blood sugar, while like those growth hormones that we produce while we sleep, again, help with that muscle rebuilding, but also help you just overall. And because you're not sleeping, that's kind of where that immune system kind of breakdown happens, right? Because you're
Yeah,
having excessive stress, correct?
correct. Yeah. And I mean, just you brought up the hormone for your growth hormone. If we skip that so many times and we're not kind of like taking that holy grail that we can kind of hold on to, we're gonna age quicker. Like we're gonna be more susceptible to diseases and like different things like that process matters. It's the system that removes the toxins and the waste and kind of cleans from the inside out, brain, to body. And that's something that we shouldn't skip over, for
Yeah,
long term, for longevity
absolutely. Yeah,
purposes.
because also like think about if you're like on a fat loss pursuit, right? And your immune system isn't as strong as it could potentially be because you're not sleeping enough. Then you might get sick more often, which is going to limit your ability to stay consistent on your plan. Because if you keep getting colds and you're not able to go to the gym or you don't have an appetite because you can't eat, then like that's going to impact your results because consistency is what matters. And if you can't be
Yeah.
consistent because you're always getting sick, then that's just a terrible quality of life.
Yeah, yeah, and that happens a lot when people are trying to change things, but really like focusing on that sleep and just like putting that and it's really difficult to get someone to buy into that. Like,
Yeah.
got buy into this thought of like, I just want you to sleep better so I can keep you in the game. Like, I want to keep you in the game. And
Yep.
I like to, say that thought of like, let's just keep you in the game. And it's this long-term game. Like, I want to keep you in the game. How's the best way to do that is I want you to buy into this. Like,
Yeah.
trust me for a minute. Here's the science, but buy into it. Like, create that, culture around it, just like we're doing with your nutrition and your training. Like, make it top notch for you. So
Yeah. Which also like the thing that I've heard a lot about sleep is that you can literally lose like have one or two bad nights of sleep and it'll impact like some people in studies have shown that they have blood sugar levels similar to that of a type 2 diabetic just from a couple
absolutely.
nights of terrible sleep.
Yep. Yep. I read that too, and it blew my mind away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's basically like when we're sleep deprived, we're losing the glucose that's going to our brain.
Hmm.
So then, we're setting ourselves up. Well, I'm kind of like skipping to the next thing, but we're setting ourselves up to fail in this situation because we're not allowing the system to properly kind of like be optimal so you can take action. Like, your willpower gets put in the back burner because your mind's all sudden like, I need, glucose.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah. And then
you're
you
gonna
start
get it for
craving,
me. You're gonna
craving
get it
those
for
things
me.
that give you like the quick glucose. That's one of the things. I mean, like hormonally, your leptin and your ghrelin levels get fucked up, right? So your
Yeah.
leptin, which is your satiety hormone, that's usually lessened. So you're less likely to be satisfied from the food that you're eating. And then
Yeah.
your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, increases. So you're more likely to be hungry, right? And then
All
your
the
brain
starches.
is craving quick sugar because it's so deprived of it because it's so exhausted.
Yeah.
So it's craving sugar on
Mm.
top of those hunger hormones being elevated,
Yeah.
which makes it really difficult for people to stay consistent with their nutrition because they're like, I'm craving all of these foods and I'm not sure why. It's
Yeah.
like, well, how did you sleep last night?
Yeah. 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 I mean, you're literally setting yourself up to let your brain hijack you.
Mhm.
Willpower doesn't even matter anymore. I mean, you're gonna I mean, sometimes you can get through it, manage it, but it's like most people don't can't do that. And it's
Yeah.
not, you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yep.
And that's the hardest part of it. Oh, I have all these cravings. Well, you know what cravings are? Literally, they're your body letting you know it needs certain nutrients, so it's seeking, and it knows that it can get it in these different forms. So we are drawn to those. Have you ever just like craved a salad? You're like, man, I
Definitely.
just want some veggies. Like,
Yeah.
no, for real. Like your body's
Oh,
like, I said vitamin C. Like you go to these things because you're craving. But kind of got off subject there. But yeah, you're being hijacked, basically. Don't be hijacked. Sleep smarter.
biggest thing is when you aren't sleeping, it's really hard to have discipline. And for people who haven't built discipline yet and they're in the process of building discipline on this fitness journey, if your willpower isn't as strong as it could potentially be because of all of these stressors that you're adding to it from that lack of sleep, then it's going to be really difficult for you.
And I guess kind of like touch on this a little bit before, but like we have a waste management system that's happening, body and our brain, right? And if we can't get into those proper sleep cycles, we're not getting the gunk out. You know, we want to get the gunk out. Like you're going through your whole day, you're pulling things in, there's toxins happening. We can have a buildup of things. So sleep actually, in the process of our sleep, we're cleaning it out. That's why when you wake up, you just get you waste, you throw the waste out, right? That's like the first thing you do. You get up, use the restroom. So we're removing the waste. So like if we're missing the sleep, that's not happening, then we can create buildup, and that's usually where diseases start happening, and we don't want to get to that level of long term.
Yeah. And I think there are like two really big reasons why sleep is such a problem, or like lack of sleep is such a problem in today's society. One of the biggest things being, in today's day and age, most people don't have jobs where they are physically active throughout the day. So like you would go to work like in the 50s or the 40s, you'd go to work and you'd work really hard. Like you'd be moving stuff, you'd be walking around all the time, and you'd get home and you'd be exhausted and ready for sleep. Nowadays, a lot of people just sit at a desk for 8 hours and they leave and they're not exhausted, right? They're kind of hyped up. And then, of course, the second thing being these little motherfuckers, right? Technology has messed up sleep because people spend hours scrolling, right? They'll be like, oh, I got to go to bed at 11. One more reel, one more reel. And then all of a sudden it's midnight and you have to be up at 5 a.m. And it's like, oh, shoot.
Shit.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
have their laptops, they're working on it, or they have all the lights on and they have everything going. So there's light, technology, just the fact that we're less active all contribute to us not sleeping enough. But
and that
here because I want you to teach us how we can combat those things, right?
Yeah. And I wanted to bring up a point with that is like, we let our phones, drip that dopamine and all the things, right? But we, at night when we're sending these signals that it's still light out by the light of our phone, we're not allowing the proper hormones to be secreted for getting ready for sleep. And that's where that disconnect happens, is we're not allowing the processes to happen correctly, because you're telling your body it's not time to sleep because you're shining light into your eyes. And your body's like, well, I don't need to give you melatonin right now. Like, you're awake. Like, why would I do that? It doesn't make any sense.
It's kind of like you go back to how did like evolution, right? We go back to like caveman era when we didn't have time, we didn't have clocks, we didn't know it was nighttime, right? And your body was signaled that, hey, it's time to go to sleep and start winding down and producing melatonin, which helps with sleep, because the sun would go down, it would get cooler outside. But now we don't have that because we're in a controlled environment where we control the temperature and we have all of these lights always on, especially like you said, flashing it in your face from your phone, or just, we always have lights on. Like most people aren't doing like, oh, it's dark, let's put on the candles. Most people don't fucking do that. So that's why like melatonin's not producing properly. So you don't have that quality of sleep because of those different factors. Is that what you mean? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I started to put one of those salt rock lamps in my bedroom. So when it's time to kind of wind down, I turn off the light and put on my salt rock light. and it just gives us nice, like, and it's also giving you those ions,
Yeah.
energy. So it's like pretty cool. I like this, like
Yeah.
my downtime.
They look
It's like
really,
turning a candle on.
yeah, it kind of is. And you know what? They look really cool too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So before I actually ask you kind of what are those strategies and action tips, I want to know, Dara, like what is your nighttime routine? Because that's one of the things we're going to talk about is like a routine. What do you do
Yeah.
at night to help yourself
Yeah.
relax
And
and get ready for bed?
it's not perfect always, but
I'm sure.
when it's on, it's on.
Oh, I
Let's
bet.
just put it there.
I know it's always going to be better than mine, so share away.
All right. So one thing I'm mindful for first is when I have my last meal.
Mhm.
So I usually try to get my last meal in around 5 or 6, because I go to bed around 8. So I'm giving myself a 2 to 3 hour window where my body doesn't have to digest while I'm sleeping,
Mhm.
because we don't need to be doing that. And it's not because, like, if you eat late or right before bed you get fat. It's just I'm setting my sleep up for the most optimal success, and I want it to get right into that sleep cycle and not worry about the digestion of my food. So
Mhm.
that's something I'm pretty stern about. Obviously, there's circumstances that doesn't always work out, um, but that's a thought that I always keep on the top of my mind. Secondly, I like I was telling you, I turn the lights down in the bedroom, kind of create a little sanctuary for myself. I don't have like TVs in there, and I have blackout curtains. I have the temperature in my house switch at a certain time every night to a
Nice.
colder temperature, just to make sure I'm sleeping and not sweating and waking up from being hot.
Mhm.
Uh, and I would say the last big piece that I really use is I'll do either a soak with Epsom salt.
Mhm.
And that really just calms me down and gets my body warm and ready to sleep. Um, and the last part of that is I spray magnesium. Like, I have a magnesium spray that I actually spray on my chest, because um, what I read from the research is, like, our heart and our thyroid uses a lot of magnesium. So I'm like giving it to it, like, here's some magnesium. And then I'll usually put on areas that are sore in my body before sleep. And what that does, what I've learned is that magnesium actually gets easier to absorb through our skin than through digestion.
Yeah, I
We
didn't know that.
actually
That's interesting.
Yeah, we actually lose a lot of our magnesium through the digestion process. So
Hmm.
actually putting it on your skin through a topical, or even like the soak, like an Epsom salt bath, is magnesium, obviously.
Well,
But
you
it's
know, I
like,
have actually heard that. Like when you have an Epsom salt bath and you have it with the magnesium Epsom salt, then it actually
yeah.
does help with that. And most people are, I hate saying like the word most, right? But a high percentage of people in America are deficient in magnesium.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge
Yeah.
role in nervous system
Yeah.
function, but also it helps to promote muscle relaxation and actually mental relaxation. So it can reduce
Hmm.
anxiety and things that people usually deal with, which is why they can't sleep, is either their body's restless or their mind's restless. So magnesium can be a really
Yeah.
good tool there.
It's something I suggest for my clients that are more, they're in their head, they're in their thoughts, they're not able to kind of get centers. Like, let's relax, let's bring some stuff down, get the magnesium on your body. And then also some other practices, but that's been helping. And the last thing, and I'm gonna top it off here, I mouth tape. Like, I
Oh,
has
nice. Okay, I was
yeah
going to ask that actually.
yeah I started mouth taping probably about a year ago. I use a company called Hostage, which sounds super creepy, but it's so legit. Um, it's if we're breathing through our mouth, if we're snoring, like, all of that happens is going to disturb your sleep cycle. You're not going to get the quality of sleep that you could possibly get. So just by shutting that off and allowing nose breathing, I could actually sleep better, just because, well, I'm not breathing through my mouth and or snoring, or all that stuff. But I also get to sleep on my favorite position, which is my back, um, because I don't have to deal with any of the other pieces of it. So I love it. It is tremendously improved my sleep. I use the Whoop, so I track my sleep. I'm more of a, obviously, like we want to follow trends, not like
Yeah.
perfect scores every day.
Yep.
But
The trend is what matters with all of those data points, you know?
absolutely. So that's basically my points that I focus on while I'm sleeping or getting
Nice.
ready for sleep.
I think it's really interesting, the mouth tape thing, because that's also something that I've always like looked into. And I know that like from what I've read, it can go two ways. It can one drastically improve your sleep, right? For the reason that you said, because nose breathing is how we need to be breathing while we're sleeping. And a lot of people mouth breathe because that's just a habit. And then it disrupts their sleep because they're snoring, they're not breathing properly. Your nose actually is used to filter air. So it's how you should be breathing.
Yeah.
But some people, like I said, dramatic improvements. Other people can't do it because they get anxiety from it. I think I would be that person who, like, you're taping my mouth, I'm probably going to get anxiety. However, I am probably going to try it one day just to be like, okay, I'm a nerd. I want to know.
Yeah.
Right? You never know unless you try. So people who are like out there thinking like, what the fuck are they talking about? I'm going to put duct tape over my mouth. Like that sounds wild. First of all, it's not duct tape. That sounds excruciatingly
that
painful.
sounds intense. So I want to give a little context to it because like I was terrified when it was first introduced, or even a thought that I just even learned about it. I was like, how am I supposed to breathe? Like I literally said that. How am I supposed to breathe? So I had all that anxiety, that feeling of like, well, I don't know if this is for me. Like that sounds super weird. But as soon like the first night I tried it, I was like, holy shit, like I breathe fine. Like I could breathe fine. Like I didn't feel like suffocated or like uncomfortable. Like I just put it on and it also shuts me up because I can be a little chatterbox.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Me and Stone get into bed and it's like I just turn into like, hey, for some reason now all I want to do is talk. Let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
She's like, shut the fuck up.
It's like, where's your tape? Put it on.
I think you should try that hostage tape thing. I think Eric is onto something here.
Yeah, he's gonna totally. Yeah. So I mean, don't knock until you try it. I know a couple people out there that do it. I know a couple people that promote it. Like, if it's for you, it's for you. Like, and if we can see biomarkers improve through like your wearables, like, why wouldn't you do it? Like, what's the loss?
I'm absolutely going to try this. And I think more for like the experimentation too, to like show people like, hey, I was really weary about trying this, but let's see if it actually helps because my sleep is very bad. But you know, I'm working on it. That's all that matters. And it's better than it was. Again, another improvement, progress over time.
Yeah, progress. Love it.
So I love that. Now let's get into the 5 strategies that you want to share because now like we spoke about why sleep is so important, why it matters for your goals, why you should care about it and not put it on the back burner. But now in this podcast, we all like to talk about applying it because that's all that matters.
Yeah, right? Application is everything.
Application is everything. Information is worthless without the application. So let's get to it. Number 1, Dara, what have we got?
Yeah, so number 1 would be get morning and evening light. So the light in the morning and in the evening sends signals to our brain of what hormones to secrete. Like, what hormones do I need? Am I supposed to be awake or am I supposed to go to sleep? And the natural light is going to give you the most information to turn that switch. And you know, it sounds hokey pokey. Got to go out and stand in the sun for a minute. But hey, like as you're doing it, put your feet in the ground, get some grounding on.
Add some more hokey pokey to it, you know.
Yeah, let's just get our feet on the ground. Release some of those those negative. What was I gonna say? But yeah, so just get in the sun, and if you don't have sun, and it's a cloudy day, you are actually still getting more light than an artificial light. So even on a cloudy day, there's benefits. And a lot of people think, well, it's cold. Okay, put a jacket on, because cool thing about it is we don't need it on our skin per se. Like our eyes actually have receptors So and don't stare at the sun,
Yeah.
but
Stupid.
gaze into the light. They receive, the receptors send signals to our brain. This is what I received. So we're actually getting it through our eyeballs. So don't wear sunglasses.
Nice. Yeah. And I know that's something that Andrew Huberman talks a lot is like the importance of getting morning sunlight. And that's why he speaks about it because it kind of sets your circadian rhythm the correct way. Whereas
Yeah.
like we were talking about what happens is in like a typical life of an American is they get up and right now during the winter time, they get up and they're heading to work and the sun's maybe rising, right? Maybe it's not yet. They go to their desk and they're under like this luminescent light all day, and then they go home and it's dark and they never actually get that sunlight, so their body gets really confused.
Yeah. So you create like an out of sync with the world. And what a lot of people don't understand is we're more connected than we think. Like we're connected to it. So the more in sync we are with the circadian rhythm, the more in sync your body is going to be with producing the things it needs to at the right time. And we're not dealing with these highs and lows throughout the day. We're just a little bit more level throughout. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, plus like sunlight helps with mood because of the vitamin D. So
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
two bangs right there.
Yeah, it's like a natural, and I like to explain it to my clients. It's like it's our natural way to get our cortisol up in the morning instead of just hitting that coffee, like
Yep.
straight coffee and then dark and then artificial lights and then you're hitting the coffee again and you're in artificial. It's like, what do you expect your body to do? It doesn't even know what day it is.
Yeah,
but
like it's so thrown off. Like think about that. Like think about I like to compare humans to dogs, right? And this is weird.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, I know you do. But like think about how depressed and anxious your dog would be if it never saw sunlight, if it didn't go on walks, if like when you go to work, like if you work a 9 to 5 and you go to work for 8 hours and your dog's in the house all day, he's super anxious and like ready to go when you get home. Like that's how humans are. Imagine not giving you any sort of sunlight or movement or anything. It's the same damn thing.
Yeah, I love this because I watch my dogs like do their thing and it's so cool. Just like if we could just be more like our dogs, we would be healthier. Like
So
the first thing my dog gets up in the morning, he goes out and he runs around in the grass and gets he grounds himself and he's in the sun and comes back in, he drinks his water and then he wants a little snack and then he sleeps. And then at night he's ready for bed. Sometimes he'll go to bed before me because he's connected to the circadian rhythm and he's on point. He knows when bedtime is. So when the sun goes down, he's ready for bed. It's like, come on, people. Like, let's get some sleep on.
So treat yourself like you would your dogs because you wouldn't let your dog sit in the house for 8 hours a day, not doing anything.
No. And when it's super cold out, like we had some negative numbers and I'm like, no, can't let my dog out there. Like I have to take him out to pee. But like he was sad, you could see it in his eyes, like, man, I'm miserable. I want to go play and be in the sun.
Yep. Sunlight is a thing. So number one, sunlight.
Get morning. Yeah. Morning. I mean, and evening light, like we can watch the sunset and really get some benefits from that. I'm not saying we got to go hit all the things, but just get in it a little bit, just make it a practice and figure out what works for you. It doesn't have to be right in the, right at that moment, but just get some in that area.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. It's like so many people are going to be like, well, what if I can't get the sunlight as soon as it rises? What if like, don't be that person who's like, it's either perfection or bust. Like, like fuck perfect.
Just get it when you
like,
can.
Consistency is what matters. Like, how is it going to fit into your life and how is it going to work in your life so that you can actually remain consistent with it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Number two.
So number two would be a consistent sleep and wake time. When we allow our body or teach our body that when we're going to bed at this time and we wake up at this time, it knows when to switch because you've already set it up as like a system. And our body is really good at like, let's make this super easy. Like, let's take this habit and make it super easy. And you don't have to think about it. I'm going to do things right on time. And that a lot of people think, oh, well, the Monday through, Friday, I'm perfect, or I did the thing, but we, sleep, go to bed late on Saturday or Friday night, and then we wake up late on Saturday morning, and then we're throwing it off in this, like we're starting it all over. And we honestly give ourselves like a hangover.
Yeah.
When
It's
we
like
start Monday again, jet lag, where we start on Monday again, and we're trying to do it, and we're trying to teach our body what to do again. So like sometimes, like for me, I'm like, time for bed, and it's like it's 8. I'm like, yeah, I always go to bed at 8. Like it's Saturday, I don't care. Saturday,
yeah.
Friday, it feels good. Like that's when I want to go to sleep because I want to wake up and be productive.
And again, one of those things where it's like, it might not be perfect, like on the weekends especially, but if you're doing within 30 minutes of the same time, like trying at least to do that, you're going to feel significantly different. Because the way that I explain to my clients is like, hey, the reason why Mondays suck so much for you is because you're giving yourself jet lag over the weekend. Have you ever had jet lag? Yeah, jet lag sucks. Yeah, well, you're doing that every weekend to your circadian rhythm, because you're going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, Monday through Friday. Saturday comes, you go to bed a little later, you wake up a little bit later, you completely offset everything and mess up your system, mess up that circadian rhythm. So this one, I've heard through research recently, is probably the most important of sleep hygiene, which is really cool because it's something that we literally control.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, hey, let's not marathon the Netflix. Let's cut it off and get to bed and be productive tomorrow. Like, let's do that.
That's the thing.
Like,
if you're an adult, like, turn off the Netflix, go to bed, it'll be there tomorrow,
Yeah.
Put down the phone. You don't need to scroll for another dopamine hit. Your body would get more of a dopamine hit if you actually went to bed.
Yeah, and I just want to put some context on all this. Like, this isn't like you said, this isn't shooting for perfection. This is also trial and error. Like, let's figure out what works best for us, and that can change over time. Give yourself grace. Understand that it's not about having to have these hard lines, but just creating a better system for you and get better over time. So
yeah. So number 3, what we got?
Number 3, kind of like I mentioned, something that I practice is just stop eating 2-3 hours before bed. And I want to say, like, stop eating a big meal, 2 to 3 hours before bed. When we're asking our body to digest 500, 400 calories right before we sleep, we have to realize, like, your body's hierarchy is to process the food before you go to sleep. So it's like okay, I'm gonna do this first and then I'm gonna do this. So you're kind of delaying the process of you even getting into that good quality sleep. So just know, like, it requires so much energy to digest, especially a big meal, especially if you have like nice big steak and and all that breaking down. Like, doesn't mean you can't have a little snack before bed if you need it. Like, that doesn't mean like you can't eat before bed. Like, it's just like, let's just pick something a little bit less that our body has to break down. Even like drinking a protein shake, like our body doesn't need to break down that as much as a steak. So let's just
something that's like easier to digest, right?
Exactly. So it's just about understanding that if your sleep is important to you, that's when I would implement this. If sleep isn't important to you at the time and you're bulking and you gotta use every minute of the day, like, by golly, like, do what you need to do. But that's just something for more of a longevity, to just get more high quality sleep.
Yeah, I think this one is more of a on a person to person basis.
Mm-hmm.
The sense where, like, some people are like, I need to have a little bit of something before I go to bed because then I'll go to bed hungry and I'm not able to sleep if I'm hungry. I'm that person.
Yeah.
I'm the person who, like, I'm also like, I require a lot of fuel because of how much I train. So I eat within 45 minutes of going to bed, but it's something easier to digest, right? I have like I have like a Ninja Creamy with like, level 1 protein. We have some almond milk. We have a little bit of peanut butter. Like, I'm not having a steak, or I'm not having like a massive giant meal. I'm having something that's very easy to digest for me. And I go to bed and feel good, versus like I'm having like all these vegetables with all this fiber and stuff like that my body now needs to break down. And, maybe I'm a little bit bloated and I just don't feel right going to bed. And then, you're tossing and turning. And a lot of
Yeah.
people, as they get older, they start dealing with like, oh, maybe I have like a little bit of acid reflux, and that's not conducive to laying down, right?
Yeah. 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 And that's why I put on that little thought of like, this isn't, you can't eat anything before bed. It's just what you choose,
Mhm.
should be a little bit more mindful.
Yeah. And I think too,
Like
it's really important to magnify that, to be like, wait, I can't eat. No, hold on.
you can't.
It has absolutely nothing to do with like fat loss, like because a
No.
lot of people, they have like that myth in their head where like if I eat after 8 p.m., then I'll start gaining weight.
Yeah.
And that's not true at all. What just happens is that generally people who are eating after 8 p.m., they're not like going for chicken and broccoli. They're generally like going for the snack cabinet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, a meal that I ate through our journey together as coach and client was I had yogurt with berries and peanut butter like every friggin' night.
And it looked so damn good every night because like you froze it a little bit, correct? Or you used frozen berries. Is that what it was?
Frozen
It
berries. Yeah.
looked so
Yeah.
good.
So I
And I
had
shared
my dinner
so many of
and
my
then,
clients too. And they were like,
yeah,
this is the best like treat that I look
yeah,
forward to because a lot of people have a sweet tooth before they go to bed.
yeah. So like that is something like I'll have, an hour, 30 minutes before bed and sleep like sleep perfect. So it's like, it's just understanding like that big meal. We don't need to put that right next to you deciding to roll over and go to sleep. Like, let's just
Also, yeah.
be a little, clear about that because we want our sleep cycles to you to kind of get into that right away. Cause that's where actually the hormone the growth hormone is usually that first part of it. We want to make sure we maximize that. We don't want to waste that over. So yeah. So don't at me. Just kidding.
Number 4.
Okay. So number 4, we kind of talked about this a little bit about our screen time, about that blue light, that artificial light that kind of is going to affect our sleep because it's telling our body it's time to be awake. So kind of giving yourself that like, hey, let me at least do this 15 minutes before bed and then just get a little bit better at it. Maybe 20 minutes and let's move it to 30. Like, you know what I mean? Like creating baby steps away from our devices because we are just drawn to them. Like, have you ever set your phone next to you and you sat there and you're like, oh, you just like, oh, you're like, there's a pole. You're like, we
Like
need to
every time
like,
I record a podcast, it's sitting there. I see it.
you're like, I see you. Yeah. So it's just like setting yourself up to get less the blue lights, less artificial lights, so we can actually get into allowing our body to again get those hormones that we need for sleepy time to get producing.
Yeah. And
So
here's how I like to apply this one because a lot of people be like, oh, but I like to like scroll on my phone before I go to bed. And so before you get to bed, right? So I know that a lot of people like, what happens is you're sitting on the couch, you're watching TV or you're scrolling, and then it's like, all right, time for bed. You just walk in, you just try to go to bed. Good job. You're probably not going to get a great quality sleep. What I like to do is, okay, I have like Beam before I go to bed. So it's like a nighttime, like CBD hot cocoa. And while I go to make the Beam, which I have like 45 minutes before I go to bed, I go and I take my phone and I put it on my nightstand, set all the alarms, put it on the charger, and then just go sit on the couch, have my Beam, read, journal, and that's it. So that way I'm not like pulled to it because it's in the other room.
what's
My
next to you?
alarms
Yeah.
are already set. So it's
Yeah.
like it's the easiest way for me to do it because I'm somebody who it's like, ooh, I want to keep scrolling even though I don't even know what I'm looking for. And a lot of times I make the excuse of like, I'm looking for content ideas. And it's like, no, you're really not.
No, you're not. Not at this hour.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's kind of like let's create systems for ourselves, like with a cue when it's this time, I'm going to put my phone on the charger in the kitchen or whatever. And maybe I do watch a little TV, put your blue blockers on, watch a little TV, and then kind of like then go into maybe you take a bath and or stretch or mobility or meditation, like fall into that, knowing that your phone is away.
Yep.
Kind of creating a separation because a lot of times if it's right there, you're going to grab it.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely. There's like that
so
temptation just because like you said, we're kind of like attached to it. Like how many times you just sitting there and you just like open it up for absolutely no reason.
I'm like, I just went down the famous black hole of the
Yep.
internet, and I don't even
Literally.
know where I'm at, but I want out. I want out.
Exactly. And a lot of you like you might be like, oh well, I don't use my phone that much. Well, your phone has this cool setting where it tells you
Every
the
Sunday.
screen time. So why don't you open that up and look at it and be like, oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
open my phone, I look at it and I scroll on these apps for way too long. And you can even set like locks on certain
Yeah.
like you can lock an app after like being on an hour. And
Yeah.
I had a client who did that once because she was trying to help her mental health. And that was one thing. She was like, I scroll way too much on social media and that's a negative impact for me. So I was like, cool, why don't we put some locks on the apps? And she set it for 1 hour and she was shocked by how quickly that happened.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy. You could be
So
on there forever.
it's like a
Uh,
like you said, it's like a black hole. So like creating that separation and then replacing the habit of scrolling with another habit, which is habit
mhm,
stacking. And you can make
mhm.
that habit stretching, mobility, which helps to unwind your body. You can watch something on TV with your blue light blockers, or you can read or journal or meditate, visualize,
Do a
read.
puzzle.
Yeah, do a puzzle. I haven't been able to do my puzzles because my cat destroys my puzzles, so I'm a little bit PO'd, but fine. It's
Come at me,
fine.
cat. That's funny. I kind of want to compound on that one a little bit just because I think it's important to say, um, just having, and I know you said you put your phone next on your nightstand, next to your bed, and I'm not coming at you,
She's coming
Caitlin.
at me.
I'm
She's coming
coming
at
at you. If my clients listen to this, they're like, she's coming at you. Um, but something that's helped me sleep better was just removing the phone from my room. And I understand there's timers and things on it, but what I've noticed the most is, um, first of all, our phones let EMFs, right?
Yeah.
And that can disturb our sleep cycle.
Mhm.
Two, we're drawn to it. We want to, last thing we see, first thing we see. We don't even
Right.
give ourselves a break from the time we go to sleep to the time we wake up.
Mhm.
So, something I started doing, with all of this is I put my phone either in the bathroom or the kitchen on a charger. My Whoop has this really cool silent alarm device thing where you can set it and it'll vibrate to wake me up. So I don't even have to have my alarm scare the shit out of me and wake me up.
Yeah,
So
that's another thing too, because that actually spikes cortisol generally very quickly because you wake up in a stressed out state because you hear this really crazy sound, which is why
yeah,
those like light alarms, the ones that like kind of rise like the sun, are supposed to be
yeah.
much better for you. The Whoop one, unfortunately, does not wake my ass up. It vibrates as much as it wants, and I've experimented with it, does not work. So I'm looking at getting one of those, I think they're
Like,
called the hatch ones, where
yeah.
they like
Oh
literally
yeah,
glow and they get brighter and brighter. It's kind of like
yeah,
mimicking the sun rising, which is super
yeah.
cool.
I love that.
But they're expensive. So eventually it'll be a thing that I implement because
Yeah,
sleep, like I said, is like a super important thing. And there are so many different tools that we can get into. Like
yeah.
there's like the mattress coolers, which is another thing that I really want to do one day because like we talked about, the light is an issue, but also like if you're in a really hot environment, you're not going to sleep very well.
Exactly. Yeah, you're going to wake up because you're going to be uncomfortable and that heat rises because our heat is already rising as we're sleeping. Like it has to
Yep.
get to a certain temperature. So if you add that plus heat in the actual environment, you're setting yourself up to be super uncomfortable. You know how it is like if you're camping and it's
Yep.
freaking hot out and you're like, I did not sleep last night. I
Oh yeah.
hated everything about
Oh yeah.
that.
That actually rolls right into number five, which is keep your room
Yeah,
dark and cool. So
dark
we
and
spoke
cool.
about the light thing. So we're kind of on that darkness and or that coolness. And I think one of the things that a lot of people can relate to is like, have you ever had a blackout in the summer and then your AC wasn't working and you sleep like shit?
Shit.
Shit.
Yes.
I can remember those nights. Like when I was a
Yeah.
kid, like we had a blackout because everybody was using their AC, so like the lights couldn't handle it, whatever it was. And you would sleep so terribly. And like my husband sleeps really hot, so he's like literally a furnace. So my Whoop, and I'm sorry, babe, but my Whoop recovery has been like green, 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 not having him here because every time he comes home, my Whoop tells me when I wake up, and obviously like these tools aren't 100%, but again, it's
The
the
trend.
it's the consistency or however that we're measuring,
Yeah.
it will literally say body
Skin
temperature
temperature.
extremely elevated when I wake up. And it's like sickness, illness, could be a fever. And I'm like, no, it's my fucking husband.
Yeah. And
every
usually,
every time he comes home that night, I wake up like without fail. And it's like, your body temperature is extremely elevated based on what it's been over the last 30 days. And I'm like, yeah, I know why.
I know why. I sleep next to a firework over here. Yeah, and mine does the same thing when my little doggy likes to curl up in my crevices and not allow me to even move. I feel like
Yep.
I'm in a cocoon, and I'm like, I wake up and it's like your skin temperature is elevated. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, because my dog was like on me.
Mhm.
I was like, come on, boy. But yeah, I get that. So
Yeah.
like keeping it cool, I mean, it's clutch. And a lot of times people will tell me, oh, but I'm cold and I don't like being cold and this and that. My answer for that is take a hot bath or a hot shower before bed so your body temperature is already at that heat level. Then get into those nice cold sheets and sleeping like a baby.
Mhm. Mhm. Nice. And if you're
Yeah.
like the opposite, if you're somebody who struggles with their sleep, what I tell my clients is like, hey, if you're somebody who struggles with sleep, let's try to get that body core temperature a little bit cooler. So for me, in the summertime especially, I have to take a cold shower close to bed because I train usually between the hours of like 2 to 5. So I'll train in the summer and it's like 100+ degrees in my garage. My
Yeah.
body temperature gets really elevated. And there were times where I'd be sitting on the couch at like 9, 10 o'clock at night and I'd still feel
So
kind
hot.
of just like,
Yeah.
elevated. And I would have to take a cool shower so that my body core temperature would go down so that I could sleep better, which is like a really cool thing that I learned. And one of my coaches
Yeah.
pointed out, she was like, hey, like I know you train later in the day. Like, are you taking a cold shower to help you sleep? And I'm like, no, I'm not. Let me try it. And it was
Yeah.
significantly different. So again, this is one of those things too that's like hot shower might work for some people, cold shower might work for other people. I would say not like, oh my God, ice cold. I would say just like a cool
A
shower,
cool
not
shower.
like
Yeah.
75 harden it here. We're just getting a cool shower in.
We're not at 30-degree temperature in the shower.
Yeah. Yeah. And that
But
kind of
yeah.
goes to another tool that like I was talking about was like the mattress cooling things. There's a company called 8 Sleep, and I've been
Mm,
like looking at their mattresses for a really long time because they use AI technology to
mm,
like learn your body so that it's like, okay, now it's gonna kick on like the cooler at this point in the night so that it can actually cool down your body temperature and help you sleep better.
yeah, that's awesome. And I guess the last thing I wanted to say, as far as like the dark room, is what we sometimes miss is like, oh, I could sleep in any light. It doesn't matter. I can go to sleep. Kind of like when people tell me they can sleep after a cup of coffee. Okay, cool. But let's do it better.
Yeah.
Like,
Have you ever tried not sleeping before? Like, I'm sure it's better, Like,
yeah,
yes, you can, but
yeah.
does that mean that it's optimal? Probably not.
No. Yeah, so about the darkness, something that we don't even think about it is like our skin sees light, and our skin can send, our skin's an organ. It can see the light and
Biggest
send,
organ in the body.
yeah, it could send those signals to our our sleep cycles and our everything, and just kind of get us out of that sleep, because it thinks, oh, what's that light, like it's awakened.
Yeah.
So we think, oh, we just cover our eyes, we just block it out, but it's not just our eyes that receive, it's our skin that receives too. So like creating like that sanctuary, that darkness, dark out, curtains. We don't need night lights, or any like light shining in. Like look for those things, kind of create this really dark room. You shouldn't be able to see your hand in front of your face. um
Yep. Don't need to
and
be afraid
you
of the dark, friends.
no, we don't need to be using little night lights, we're all grown up now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's just something I thought was super interesting, super cool, because we think about just our eyes seeing things, but our skin is able to receive light and just send the wrong signals. So we want
Yeah,
to
absolutely. And again,
make sure.
that's one of those things too. I feel like some people are way more sensitive to light than other people. Like I know some people who can like, yeah, they can fall asleep kind of anywhere, but like other people are like, wow, that light from like that alarm clock over there in the corner is
Yeah,
It's
really
like,
messing
yeah,
me up.
well, it's a real thing, and I think that a
Yeah.
lot of those people just have better awareness versus like the people who maybe are just like, oh, well, I sleep with the TV on. I'm like, how do you even, how?
Yeah,
How?
I would love to see the people that sleep with TVs on, the people that can sleep in a bright room, what their actual sleep quality looks like, because I doubt that they're waking up feeling restful.
Yes, because
Or
here's the thing with sleep is that I feel like a lot of people they think they get good sleep because they wake up and they're able to like go about their day. When in all reality, they're not getting great quality sleep and they are just kind of almost getting through their day where they
yeah,
don't realize what they're missing on. And
yeah,
that's why like I'll ask my clients like, how's your sleep? And they'll say, it's good.
it's
And
fine.
then it's not actually good when we break it down. It's just like, oh, this is what I thought good was, but I didn't realize how much better it could be and how much better I could feel.
Yeah. One thing I like to add for clients is like a journal prompt, like a journal, like when you wake up, how do you feel? Like, let's go through some sensory things about yourself and just like then after adding in a few little tools, now how do we feel waking up? And
Yeah.
there's a drastic difference of like what I thought was good to what is actually better.
Yeah, no, it's important again to have that awareness. It's kind of like when somebody's having gut issues and we can't like pinpoint what exactly is causing the gut issues. I'll have my clients do a food log where they document in a journal like how do they feel right after they eat, like 45 minutes after they eat, right before they eat, and then we start to notice trends. And it's one of those things where some people just we just aren't aware because we have so much
Yeah,
other things going on throughout our life. And then when we actually start to build awareness, we realize, oh wow, this made a huge impact. I'm going to keep doing this, or this
yeah.
didn't, so I'm going to stop doing it.
Right, right. Yeah.
Nice.
So
So one of the biggest things I have a question for is like, what if I'm going to give you an avatar and then, we'll move on. But what if I'm somebody who like, I go to bed at midnight and I wake up at 6, but that's like how I need to do it. Like, how do I want to wake up at 5, but how do I do that? Like, do I just wake up at 5 tomorrow or do I like do it slowly? Like, what would you recommend somebody do?
yeah, I mean, it really just depends on the person, but most people I'd recommend to do it in increments. So, like, if you're waking up at 6 and you want to wake up earlier, let's wake up, 5:45, and kind of build on that.
Yeah.
Just it kind of just helps us ease into a change, and then we're not getting that huge like jet lag feeling through the process. So,
Yeah, that's one of the things that I recommend too. Obviously, some people are more of like, I'll just do it all at once, cool, and you'll suffer for a couple of days. You
yeah.
will absolutely suffer for a few
Yeah.
days.
And
Um,
and you can kind of know like how someone operates if you've been with them enough to where can they do some hard shit right now or do we need to kind of baby step this a little bit?
yeah, and I
So,
think with the sleep thing, it's like if somebody is going to bed at midnight, waking up at 6, and they want to wake up at 5, it's like, cool. Well, why don't we just lose 15 minutes? Like we move everything back 15 minutes. Like you go to bed at 11:45, we wake up at 5:45. 15 minutes is like nothing. So it makes it just
yeah.
easier for people to be like, oh, I can lose 15 minutes. Like I can do that. I can wake up 15 minutes earlier.
Yeah. And we didn't really touch about this, but just so people know, like sleep cycles last about an average of 90 minutes.
Hmm.
So if we could even know by knowing that we can set ourselves up to waking up not in the middle of a sleep cycle.
Because that's when you feel
Um,
terrible.
that's when you feel terrible. So something that I like to share is like if you wake up, you're just like, oh, I'm awake, and you feel great, and it's like maybe 30 minutes before your alarm clock, like get up, like don't
Yep,
sleep
I've
for
made
30
that mistake
minutes.
too many times. I'm like, I still have like 30 minutes. I feel great. I must have had a great night's sleep. And then I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna, get my another 30.
Finish it out.
Then
Yeah,
nope, you wake up and you feel way worse. And it's
yeah.
it's because you're waking up in that sleep cycle because you didn't
And
give
then
it
that alarm goes off.
and then
Your
it's just
alarm's
like,
waking up.
oh, I hate my life and I just want to go back to bed. But like, and it kind of gets you mad because you're like, damn it, I should have just gotten up, but I was
God
just,
no.
it was like that moment of weakness.
Yeah, yeah, and it happens, like it happens to me all the time, but like being aware and just uh having the tools and the awareness to make those decisions, I think is what empowers people, right? Because it's like if I even know that, I'm gonna go back to sleep, right? And then you do it, and you're like, God, why am I always so tired? But if you're armed with these tools of like understanding how this system works, even then you get to make that decision and live with your consequence.
Yep.
And then maybe make a better decision next time. I don't know, maybe it takes a few times for you to
Yeah,
just
it's
kind
kind of
of
like, when
decide.
you touch a hot stove and it burns you, like how many times does it actually take for you to learn, like, hey, check if the stove's on before you touch it,
Yeah,
Like that
100%.
experience that you build over time. But, I'm
Yeah.
really happy with this conversation because I mean, I know we've both been excited about having this conversation for a while because the reason why I wanted to have you on and discuss it is because I see people, like we were talking about, just put sleep on the back burner way too much and they don't realize how much it impacts not just their results if they're looking to achieve a fat loss goal or build muscle or be healthy, but also just their quality of life. So I'm glad that I had you on because I know that like when I think about sleep, I think about Dara because she's like got that shit down and she's educated herself so much with it too. Do you have anything any last words that you'd like to leave us on about sleep? Like if you were to tell if I'm listening to this, I'm like, okay, this is a lot. What do I do tonight? Like what should somebody implement tonight?
Hmm. Well, I was going to say the phrase don't sleep on sleep because that's my favorite thing to say. Like, let's not sleep on this
Yep.
amazing thing that we can set ourselves
Don't
up for.
procrastinate it.
Don't
Take action.
procrastinate, just take action. But yeah, like I would just say pick one thing that would be the easiest for you to apply now and see how it works, like trial and error. Like don't put any hard lines of like this needs to be perfect. Just take one thing that you can see that could be the best move for you right now and apply it, try it, ask questions. You can reach out to Caitlin or I if you need any more help with it. But that's what I would recommend is just take one thing that seems best for you right now that you can implement and try it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to put in the show notes, I'll put all the resources that we spoke about. So like the blue light blockers that I use personally. I'll put the Sleep Smarter book down there so that you guys can educate yourselves as well, because that's a great book. I need to actually read it myself. I read Eat Smarter, but I need to read Sleep Smarter. And then we will also put Dara's information below so that you can ask her any questions that you need or just follow her because she's awesome. And as always, guys, go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be.